All right, everyone. The Democrats are obsessed with destroying DeSantis. I think it's because they worry that in 2024, you'll end up with a situation where it could be a 40-something DeSantis with massive in-state popularity versus a waning 82-year-old Joe Biden. I don't think that would go well for the Democrats. DeSantis has already said if Trump gets in, he's not going to. But let's say that Trump doesn't get in. I think there are two main ways in which that happens. Number one, he is an older dude. He has a health problem. Number two, I think if Biden has a health problem, if Biden isn't the candidate in 24, it may very well not be Trump because people start drawing comparisons. They'll say, well, he's the same age Biden was when he ran before. Haven't we been through this before? We had one president get 25th or resign or die in office or something, and then Kamala probably becomes the opponent. DeSantis versus Kamala, it'd be for the Republicans, it'd be like shooting fish in a goddamn barrel. That's one thing they're worried about. The second problem is that the Democrats are the party of hardline coronatarianism. They're the party of you need to get rid of all of your freedoms because COVID exists. DeSantis has taken up completely the opposite tact. If over the course of the next year or so, especially leading into the midterms, COVID dissipates in the public consciousness, DeSantis can say, I was the one with the level head that didn't panic. My state's economy, therefore, didn't take as big a hit. Look at what the Democrats did. He could become a major figure as a proxy, potentially, for various campaigns around the country. Therefore, the Democrats are trying to cast him as responsible for every death in his state from COVID. This is a 180 from what they did during the Trump presidency. You'll remember a couple of, back when Trump was president, the president was responsible for everything. Governors weren't responsible. Nobody at the local level was responsible. It was Trump's fault. The buck stopped there. Now, since the asterisk administration began, Biden is not responsible for anything COVID-related. Now it's all the governor's fault. That's because they've differentiated between the hardline coronatarianism of like Newsom, Whitmer, Cuomo, who's now gone, by the way. They're trying to hush that story up. Hey, Cuomo's gone. Remember how he raped 10 people and killed 15,000 grandparents, but nobody cared about that at the time. Then you've got people like DeSantis, Abbott, and so forth that are not doing that. So nobody wants to focus on the rate of COVID in North and South Dakota. No, it's just Ron DeSantis. The fact is that the population density plays a role. But the problem is this. The rise in cases in Florida is roughly approximate, more or less, with the rise in cases in other places where the cases are rising. Masks, again, apply or do not apply situationally. In some of these places, people tend to be masked up, higher vaccination levels, lower vaccination levels. Mask mandates, no mask mandates. Mask suggestions, business restrictions, no business restrictions. Well, there's no correlation. If there's no correlation, then blaming DeSantis makes absolutely no sense. Any more than blaming anyone else. Even blaming like the blue state governors makes no sense. They don't have a magic wand that can cure contagion. The Democrats, though, I think, are afraid of DeSantis. Partially because of his COVID response being, hey, what do you expect me to do about it? Go about your life. The fact is that Floridians aren't panicked. And that worries the Democrats because part of their platform right now is do what we say, you should be afraid. Not just with COVID, with regards to foreign theaters diplomacy, with regards to eviction moratorium. Oh my God, there'll be millions of homeless people if you don't give us more power. UBI, they're trying to sell you 1 million pigs in a poke, but it requires the population be afraid. The fact is that as goes Florida, so goes the nation in some cases politically. And after the washing away of Democratic support there because mainly of Bernie Sanders' praise for Castro in the last election, they're looking forward to a pretty dismal midterms. I love it when I see some of the cope posting from like Dem-leaning blogs saying, well, actually the Republicans are the ones that are worried for the midterms. I don't sense that at all. I've got my finger on the pulse of the public opinion. The Republicans are all gung-ho and excited. They can't wait for the next election. The Democrats, it's basically like when they were holding their nose to vote for Beijing Biden. They're not enthused. We'll see what happens in the California recall. That's going to be at least a little bit of a fortified bellwether with regards to the sentiment of the public. Differential in turnout, differential enthusiasm. But the soaring cases in Florida, link in the description, that they're constantly hammering DeSantis with, I thought that it was all the president's fault. It was until January 20th, at least. It used to be the problem, the federal government didn't do enough. Now it's, oh my God, he doesn't want to force kids in schools to wear masks. But even the CDC is not recommending that. DeSantis is following medical guidelines from the U.S. medical apparatus. He's the one following the CDC guidelines. The governors that are saying kids need to be in hazmat suits are not. They're ignoring them. They're not even following the WHO's guidelines. They're following their own paranoia for political purposes. That's about all. Peace out.